Hey everyone, Alex here from Japanese Masters, and today we are going to go over Minna no Nihongo Lesson 3 Part 2, Noun wa place des. Okay, let's go ahead and dive right on into this. Okay, as you can see here, we have our noun wa place des. Let's start by translating this into English. In English, this is basically equivalent to noun is located at place. And this general structure is just going to be used to say where a noun is located. Okay, let's go ahead and break this down. So first we have our in, that is going to be our noun, and that is the noun that you are giving a location to. So you're basically giving it the attribute of a location. So you're saying where basically this noun is going to be located. Then we have our place, and that is simply going to be a word or a phrase that determines where that noun is going to be located. So the actual place is going to be a series of words or a word that describes the location of the object. And then of course we have our wa and our des. These we've gone over many times before. This is just the copula, basically equivalating to be in English. And one more thing I want to mention is, if you notice, we have noun wa place des. Another thing that you can actually do, and you'll actually see also a lot, is noun wa place ni arimasu. It's a different way to say the above. They're basically equivalent. Now, I've heard that in certain situations, the des more equivalates to adding the article the before it, while ni arimasu more equates to adding a before it. So the difference between the restaurant is on the first floor to there is a restaurant on the first floor. However, I've also heard other people say that they are basically identical to each other. Most situations, these are going to be 100% interchangeable. However, there might be certain situations where des or ni arimasu is better suited, but I am not a native speaker. I don't have that native judgment, so I won't really be able to tell you which one is best in all situations. Just know that in 99% of the situations, you can interchange these grammar structures and they'll mean exactly the same thing. So yeah, so if you see this or you want to use this, they're both really common. The des structure I think is a little bit more common because, it's shorter, easier to say. However, the ni arimasu is also used all the time. I heard Japanese people say it. I heard my sensei say it. And of course, foreigners like to say it a lot too because it's an easy structure to kind of grasp. Okay, let's go ahead and go through a couple of examples for this. So the first example is, he is at the hospital. Kare wa byoin desu. Now, the first thing you might be thinking is that if you remember the very first lesson, which is noun 1 wa noun 2 des, that this would be saying that he is the hospital, or like he is the hospital. However, in this situation, if you're using a place here, then it becomes that he is located at. I know the structure is completely identical because you have a noun and a noun. However, when you use a place here, it symbolizes located at. If you were to use another noun, then you might be giving an attribute that he is actually something. And also context here is very important to determine that. That's why I think a lot of foreigners like to prefer to use ni arimasu, because that very much symbolizes that something is located somewhere, even though this one would be ni imasu because he's a sentient being. But you'll notice a lot of Japanese people will use des instead, just because it's simpler and faster, and generally from context people know exactly what you're talking about. Of course, kare means he in Japanese, and byoin means hospital, and then we have our wa and our des structure. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next example. Okay, the next example is, the store is there. Now, you might actually remember from the last lesson that I did that we used this a lot. We'd use something noun here and then a place here, but in that one I was talking about koko, soko, and asoko. Here is the actual structure that is really built off knowing those verbs. So we have mise wa soko desu. The store is there, or the store is over there. Yet again, we have our place, that is just the soko. And then we have our mise, which is store in Japanese. And like I said before, this one is a little bit more obvious because obviously the store can't be physically there, as in, it's not a noun that it could be. Like if I were to put car here, the store is a car, or something like that. This one can only be interpreted as a place, where this one can be kind of interpreted as he could be the hospital himself, or he could be at the hospital, but only one of those really makes sense. This one is 100% a location and easy to grasp. And also, this is kind of why Minna no Nihongo put this afterwards, is so that you have a structure to use koko, soko, and asoko with. Okay, let's go and move on to the last example. The last example is the train station is near the supermarket. Eki wa supa no chikaku desu. Now, this sentence, like before, could easily be Eki wa supa no chikaku ni arimasu. But, of course, we're going over the des structure here, so I put des here. Now, this, I wanted to talk about how we have our place. Now, if you notice, the place is not a single word. Like I said earlier, it can be a phrase. It just has to be a phrase that determines the location of something. So, supa no chikaku. Supa is, of course, the loan word from English that means supermarket. And then no chikaku means near or close by. So when these put together, it means near the supermarket. So even though this is multiple words, it still sums down to a single location. And where's the location? It's near the supermarket. And then, of course, we have our eki, which is train station in Japanese, and then our wa and des structure to make the to be, the is. Other than that, that is all there really is to this lesson. Is basically the hardest thing I think to grasp would be to know in the situation when someone is talking about noun wa place des or noun one wa noun two des. And the only thing you have to do is you have to know the context, because it's usually going to be obvious from the context. If someone just took this completely out of context and just said this phrase without anything before or after, then I'm pretty sure even a Japanese person would be confused, unless it's obvious words. However, in most situations, you're easily going to get the context before it to know whether they're talking about where something's located or whether something is something. Okay, so that is the end of today's lesson. I hope it made sense. Just know in general that if you want to add a place after the noun wa structure, then you are going to be saying where something is located. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. If you have any criticisms, also put that in the comments below. I'll be happy to address that. Other than that, that is the end of today's lesson. All right, everyone, keep studying Japanese. I'll see you in the next lesson.